Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Cinema Chat with Amithe. This is the episode number 42. How are you doing today? It's a great day and a great evening. I know we have our difficulties, rough days, lockdowns, quarantines, and all that, but then life goes on. We got to do what we are supposed to be doing. And I have been doing this show for last 42 weeks. So, uh, let me welcome all of you, whoever is joining from LinkedIn. Thank you for joining with us. And then those who are joining from Facebook, and also those who are joining from YouTube. We have few who always join from YouTube. And I would like you to invite to come and comment, share, and like the show. If you like the content, that would be great for us to share good things. And then let me talk about myself. My name is Amithe Gamage, and I'm an executive coach. I love coaching CEOs. I have a good clientele, uh, CXOs basically. I help them improve their level of leadership and performance. Right, as a CEO, sometimes there are things that you can't go and tell your wife or your spouse, husband, and sometimes you can't tell it to your board, and that is where an executive coach would come and help you. And then I help individuals, again, C-level executives and business owners, improve their personal brand. And then I also help B2B organizations improve their sales by way of working with their sales teams. That's what I do. And as I told you, I've been running this show for last 42 weeks, including this week, and I've been bringing experts to talk to you. And then today, I have known this gentleman for a while, and I also know that he has worked in many organizations, including Boeing and Tesla. And then suddenly, I got to know that he was publishing a book. And I was like, wow, amazing. Someone who has worked for some multinationals, and then you put your experience together and give some advice and tips and all that. And then amazingly, it is again, the book is all about career progression. you know how do we move forward, a lot of things. And then I one day asked him, hey, can you come to my show? And then he said, hey, Amita, why don't you wait till I publish my book? And then so I gave him little breathing time for him to publish his book. And then and I waited till he settles down. And then when I realized he was ready, I said, hey, it's time that you appear on my show. So let me welcome a Sri Lankan living abroad who has worked for a lot of big corporations, who has also published a book. That's a great thing, sharing knowledge. Priyaji Piris. Good evening,
Thank you.
Priyaji.
Good evening.
Y-
Thank you very much for having me on your chat.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we are more than happy to see you here. At this moment, we have more than 25 people watching this live. And okay, we generally get into the questions at once, but then I would like to ask you, from where are you joining right now? Priyaji, you hear me? From which location are you joining us?
Sorry, Amita. Yeah, I think you're back. Yes.
Yeah, so just want to know, from where are you joining us now? Which
I'm
country?
actually I'm in Indonesia at the moment, in Jakarta, Indonesia at the moment.
Oh, okay,
I've been living
amazing.
here about 3 years now, since I moved to from China.
Okay, amazing. So let's say hi to few of our, lovely fans who come here on a weekly basis. So we have Yasuru. Hi, Yasuru. Good evening. We have Tamit, and I'll be starting a Facebook Live to help entrepreneurs in Sinhala language with Amit. So Tamit, thank you for joining here. And we have, I think, Lakshita. Hi, Lakshita. Thank you for joining. We have Sampath Ranivarachi. Sampath, hi, Sampath. Thank you for coming. We have Sevandi. Hi, Sevandi. And who else? Tarangani Disanayaka. Hi, good evening. And we also have Bharat Kumar, Ravi Kumar joining from India. He's a 15-year-old and he's a digital marketer. My son will be interviewing him on a LinkedIn Live next Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Sri Lankan time. So, Bharat, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, we have Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you very much for dropping by. And we have Dr. Errol Veer Singh. Oh, he's joining us from San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know whether Dr. Errol is known to Priyaji. Priyaji?
No, I don't think so, but a familiar area for me. Lo-
Okay,
Lovely,
brilliant. So,
lovely to hear you.
yeah, yeah, we have Ajit Bandar. Good evening, and Krishant, as usual, joining from YouTube. And Tarangani, looking forward to a fruitful session with you both. Yes, yes, we are trying our hard level best. Okay, Priyaji, let's get into the topic. I just want to know about your, I know we moved, you moved from Sri Lanka to wherever. So first, let us talk about your life here as a kid, as a student. Where were you? What did you do before you
Yeah,
moved to?
absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for everybody coming in and joining us and listening this conversation. Obviously, if you have any questions, please do ask. I'd love to participate and answer the questions. I was born in Panadura, and then I went to Rajagir Vidyalaya Panadura. Then after scholarship, I went to Ashoka Vidyalaya, and then moved to Ananda College for A levels. Yeah, so that's basically. I mean, I always love doing mathematics. With numbers, I really love that. And I never had the scope to go to biomedical side of things. Obviously, I never had the passion for it. Yeah, so in Sri Lanka, I was brought up in the Panadura area. So it's a great experience to have that culture and understand the people. And I really miss that too. It's being away from the country for such a long time, and that's such a thing that I miss. But there are certain things that we need to achieve in our careers and lives. So it's part of life, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
But the-
I,
but these
I
days
can.
it's a very small world, right?
Yeah, I know. So even say I want to go to Panadura and enjoy right now at this moment here. No, there are restrictions, and then we got to
Exactly.
be careful. So all that. Okay, so let's talk about your higher studies. Like you did your A levels, and then what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I wouldn't say I'm the smartest person in school. I would say average to medium B. So dropped off
Priyaji,
for a second.
yeah,
Yeah, continuing
I
on.
lost you.
I went to
Yeah,
Melbourne for my
I, lo- yeah, I lost you for a few seconds.
Yeah. So I went to Melbourne for my high studies, RMIT University. I went to study aerospace engineering. So completed that, in 2003. I completed that. It just shows my age, but and then uh, I was. That's basically when I kind of, basically graduated and looking for a job. I guess it's a great experience because being a lot of Sri Lankan community being in Melbourne, I had the luxury of working and being part of that Sri Lankan strong community in Sri Lanka in Melbourne. So yeah, it's great, and I was lucky, I guess I would say.
Okay, right. So we have someone special saying hi to you. Let's see. That's Pushpa Piris. My son, we are so proud of you and your achievements. Love you. You want to say
Thank you.
who? That's your mama, right?
Yes. Thank you so
Yeah, I
much.
mean, yeah, for parents, I think yeah, those are the greatest moments. I mean, I have two kids and you have kids, so uh, great. It's a proud moment. And we never go and talk about our achievements with our parents in detail like this. So she's going to sit and listen to the story. Okay, thank you
Yeah.
very much, ma'am, for joining.
Yeah. Thank you very much again. Yeah, in terms of the part of the higher studies, so I did my MBA. I started doing part time because I was working. I did my MBA when I started about 2009, I think, if I memory, and then I finished about 2013. So I took my time to actually do it. The one reason is that I thought it's what do you call the knowledge that you need to understand the business world, you need to understand industries, and understand the people. So I had a bit more exposure to the working cultures or the workforce. So that's kind of why I delayed going to the MBA anyway. So yeah, it was actually a really great experience. I completed that 2013, same university, RMIT University as well.
Okay, so I'm sure once when you complete university, you are supposed to be working as a intern or you need to get into the job market. So what did you do? You applied for a job in Australia itself, or
Australia itself. So, I mean, my industry is aerospace industry. It's a very niche market, niche industry, right? So even at that time, if you don't have a new model coming into the airline industry, um, it, there's no such growth in that segment. So it's funny enough, it took me what 2.5 years to actually get to the industry. So meanwhile, I was doing a lot of different things. Like, I joined this printing company. I would never regret joining this company. I would say why it's very important to have that experience. It's fate or whatever that is. Um, so I worked there for about 2 years, and then I learned about all the digital side, digital printing side, all the aspects of the business into the marketing side. It's funny enough. So when I go to print my book,
yeah,
then all these aspects I learned comes into the picture. When I go to the talk about the marketing side of things, all these experiences come back. It's a great, no matter what you do in terms of the jobs or things in your life. I think they're all useful tools that you can use in throughout entire journey. And then,
yeah. I
yeah,
always, I always, yeah, I always tell my kids or the youngsters I meet, collect your experiences. It is never going to be a waste. But then this is a great example. I am sure you joined printing industry and you didn't have an idea of printing a book of on your own, and then here you have published a book later on.
that's right. It's just how amazing that how all these different puzzle pieces come together, right? It's fate, or it's like, I don't know, it's whatever that is. So it worked out well for me, I guess. A little bit of experience helps.
Yeah,
Um,
I know.
then yeah,
Yeah.
there was
So
tough time. Like for
yes.
me, I mean, like that was a tough time. Like because you once you graduate, everybody wants to get into the industry, but it's very hard to find jobs, especially like because you're not Australian in sense because you went there for studies. So we are not the priority, right? So yeah, it's tough time, but you got to be persistent.
Yeah, I know. I'm still grateful to that guy who hired you in the printing company because you are from aeronautical engineering or whatever you call it. Yeah, and then I don't know whether you made their printing company fly later.
Actually, it was good. Like towards the end of that job, I was like leading a team and looking after a whole section of the company too. So it's growth. So everything is
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, great. So let's talk about your Boeing experience. I mean, who wouldn't want to join a large corporation like Boeing? old, well structured, large. I mean, how many aircraft manufacturing companies are there in the world? So you have joined, you have been able to join them. So you wanna, uh, add a little bit more about your uh, Boeing experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Boeing experience was like it's amazing. Like I was extremely lucky. They were starting 787 program to manufacturing, and then obviously they had a part-time job coming in as a quality engineer. Like okay, I'll take that. I'll apply. I'll keep pushing. So lucky enough, I got the position, and when a part time became 3 months later, part time became full time. So it's because it was the whole project was right at the beginning, right? Everything's setting up. Even the factory is empty when I was there, and they're setting up all these processes, systems in the place. So everybody's figuring out what to do, how to do things, how to manufacture an aircraft. I mean, they were doing outboard flaps, actually trailing edge flaps at that time. So it's everybody's learning, and then we are trying to figure out at the same time. So what I got out of the most important thing is like it's super structured, right? Everything has to be regulated. Everything has to be the rule by the rule book. So I was taught to actually follow the rule book to the dot, because you cannot make a mistake, because people's lives in matter
Yeah,
here. So
of course.
that's actually a really great experience, because I was taught the hardest possible way to actually follow the rules, do the right things, follow the procedures, take the right decisions. So that actually was super helpful for my entire career. That created like okay, the structure in my what do you call it, let's say the thinking process or the problem solving process. So it was very important that position I took. And yeah, it's super great experience. And throughout I worked there for about 8 years, and then I kind of slowly, gradually moved to different positions: program manager, engineer, process engineer, and managing different projects. Bigger projects towards the end in that program. More, I always thought like, okay, I have the engineering knowledge. Like, I graduated as an aerospace engineer, but there are more to learn than just engineering. I don't want to be pigeonhole myself to one area. So that's why I try to move around in the business itself. So took different roles like quality engineer to starting with, and then process engineer, manufacturing engineer, project manager, program manager. So all these aspects, I guess, covered a lot of part of the business. And I mean, they're mostly engineering related, but they cover most part of the business. So that really helped me grow, even within that company. Even it's a highly structured company, as you all know, right? Hard to get, climb that
Yep.
ladder in that company. So
Yeah.
that's something I kind of strategized in myself. Like, okay, if I want to get to a certain position or title or skill set I want to achieve, I kind of moved around. So then I achieved certain aspects of that, job skills, job part of the job.
Okay.
So
So then, you have been working for one of the oldest and largest and most structured, uh, aircraft manufacturing company, and then you join an organization which is very disruptive, with challenger mentality and breaking all the norms that we know of. And then I don't even know how you manage from that kind of a work environment to uh, I really don't know the work environment, but then well structured, that gentleman type, Boeing, to suddenly this young boy who is disrupting the market, Tesla. What made you even making the move?
again, okay, so if I was at Boeing, right? Like I thought there was that point. There's a certain point in the Boeing life that I thought I need to take certain risks. I need to take certain take on certain challenges to push myself, push my boundaries, so I can learn a lot of other things. Because my career path is different. I had certain goals I wanted to achieve, and obviously Tesla opportunity came in, and it was great opportunity. I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. This is it's a risk, but going half a world around the world, and changing the country again, it's different, it's challenging, because you're leaving a lot of things behind in terms of social side of things. Got nobody there, right? But
Yeah.
it's a well worth risk, right? Because end of the day, when I was joining, everybody's asking, "What is Tesla? Who is Tesla? Like, what do they do?" I mean, this is back in 2014, and for 15, they're just getting their hands on the car itself. They haven't even launched, I
Yeah.
think, a soft launch, I think. And then, well, they're asking, okay, we got to take the risk. I mean, this is something fascinating. This is something changing. Let's see what I can make. If I can make impact, if I can learn something out of it, that's what matters.
So
So
Priyaji, like
answering,
Priyaji, I mean, my other question is like today everybody wants to join Tesla, right? Imagine you joining at the. I mean, I know you say that you saw the risk, but then I really can't figure out how you made up your mind to it's a you are well established in your office, in your job, and then you just want to go and join Tesla. You wouldn't know what could happen tomorrow. What went in your mind other than what you just told me?
okay, so there's a couple other things. So like I also look at the environmental factors, right? Things like how Australia is going to do, how the Australian manufacturing sector is going to do over the next 5 years, and what's that going to outlook look like. So these things matter, because when we take a decision like that, you got to think about 4 or 5 years ahead, not just yourself, about the environment itself, right? Because if the manufacturing sector is not going to be there, your job's not going to be there too, or most likely, even though you're the best in the market or best in the skill set. But that job also, think about it this way, right? Whether you are in the top of the food chain, you're not going to learn anything out, because the whole industry is slowed down, and your learning curve is always stagnant. And then what will happen is you'll get frustrated. You can last 6 months. I mean, from personally, you can last 6 months, but 1 year, 2 year, you get stagnated. I mean, there are people who can do the same job over and over, and definitely not me. So that's one of the, I mean, those are the two key factors I looked at. And and lucky for me, this opportunity came. I was like, okay, this is a great challenging, because United States is California, always something happens, right? In Silicon Valley, always happens. And if it doesn't matter whether it's workhouse or not, always I can come back. I got my skill set, right? So those are the
Yeah.
key things that I looked at, I would say.
Okay. So once you are done with Tesla after some years, uh, I hear that you decided to become an entrepreneur. Now, is that entrepreneurial skills? Did you realize that you had entrepreneurial skills while working as a manager in an organization, or is it something that you completely wanted to try new? And what was that aha moment? Okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
So think about Tesla, right? Or the companies I work for, I would say they're disruptive. What does disruptive mean? You challenge yourself. You don't even have a product, right? You challenge yourself. You have a rough idea of, okay, this is what it would look like. Let's bring it to the market. Let's see what happens. That's disruptive, right? And
Yes.
then you actually push yourself to make it work. uh, that's because that's what you do at Tesla, right? Because you literally make things out of nothing. Right? So
Yeah.
if you can do that, if you can survive in those environment, that's because you have that entrepreneurial skills. And I mean, I used to like interview a lot of people and hire people as well. That's one quality. I mean, if anybody wants to apply for Tesla and do, go for interview, this is a small tip. You got to have your open-mindedness, and then it's not about your skills today, it's about the skills you have potentially, and how you can grow to that. And the entrepreneurship is very important. That will They appreciate it because you can't be stagnant in that environment. So maybe that probably answer that question, like, because without being entrepreneurial, by having the mindset, I would not never get hired
Yeah,
in the
true.
first place.
Yes,
So,
agree.
and then when I'm there, I'm hiring people similar to my qualities or similar to what I know and the culture of the company, which is entrepreneurial mindset is part of it, right?
Okay,
So,
okay.
and I was actually surprised that they hired me in the first place, coming from a structured company. But yeah, it's somehow they figured out, I guess, lucky for me,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. So now, I mean, after that, you became an entrepreneur. You have your own business. You want to say a few words about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined up a couple of people from Sri Lanka and Australia as well. We started this investment platform to bring up young entrepreneurs, talented people in Sri Lanka. So the support that they can get, basically nurturing them and bringing up to the level of that they can get the funding from others. It's called Golankans. So we launched that about 6 months ago, and then we soon realized that a lot of these entrepreneurs, when they have the product, they don't have a platform to actually showcase them and or sell them. I mean, there's a lot of ways of doing, like at the moment they're doing through Facebook or Instagram or many other different social platforms, which is not secure, which is not the way to grow a business. Uh, so that now we launched a new platform called GoKade, which is supporting all the products. Anybody can come in for a super cheap price, actually extremely low cost, no contracts. They can come in and sell their products, and go to the market, test it out, and go. You know, if you have an idea, build a product, test it, improve it, and get the customer feedback, and then redo it. So that's a whole model that every one of us needs to understand. Coming from a aircraft company to looking at the electric car company, how they changed. You bring the structure, but at the same time you bring the innovation into the game. So that's what we all need to kind of bring in. So even I bought the structure in Golankans, but I also bought the innovation in the Gokade. So kind of merging them together. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So let's before we go to the next question about your book, about how to advance your
Mhm.
career, let's look at your mother again. Priyaj is the best son anyone can have. From day one, we knew he would bring great happiness to us all. Yeah. Okay. True. I mean, I see those qualities which you have inculcated in him in every aspect of area, maybe the business, the family, friends, and all that. So I mean, one reason why, I mean, I'm also very careful about the people whom I interview here. I had to set a great example out there. So thank you, ma'am. So let's talk about your book now. Why don't you read the name out by showing the book to our audience?
Of course, I can. It's a funny book, funny title. It's called Fart Out Loud. You can say Fart
Yeah,
Out Loud.
yeah, yeah.
Make noise, break rules to get ahead. So it's all about how you behave, how you navigate in the corporate world, how you can progress your career in the corporate world, or wherever you work, even socially at these days. It's something that you can use. So it's more of a practical approach. And I must say, I've read like so many. I was talking to Amithe, some time back. There are a lot of theoretical books, but actually practicality is it's hard.
Yeah,
So
I know. So I would like to see the book once again, if you could show
yes,
it.
sorry.
Yeah. So it goes as, fart out loud, make noise, break rules, get ahead. Okay. So in the corporate world, hey, you are not supposed to make noise. You are not supposed to break rules. And maybe not everyone can get ahead. So it's a very controversial statement, I would say.
Correct. It's controversial. See, what I realized throughout my career, like early in my career, actually, if I don't make the noise, I I could never get ahead. And I looked around a lot of people who make the noise. They actually advance their career very fast.
Mm.
Like, and you don't necessarily have to do the tasks, but enough noise in right places. That's the key, and to the
Oh,
right people. So
oh,
So that's why it's very important that you have to understand environment. Like, I mean, I start this book with a simple, maybe kind of going into the slide of the book. First chapter is basically a meeting space, right?
oh, okay.
How can you make a impact in a meeting space? Because when I was a graduate, I just came to the job. Nobody knows me, right? And nobody
Yeah,
really cares about what I say,
yeah.
right? But
True enough.
right, so then how do you advance? So but if you think about your, like, let's say you go to these big meetings, you have these corporate meetings of, like, from my case, engineers, the VPs and production managers, and even could be the biggest boss, and they're there, and whatever you say, you get questioned so hard, and then you're pushed to the limits, pushed to the boundaries, and almost like you're in tears. Some of the people I've seen,
True.
right?
Yeah. I was in the
So,
corporate world, so I know.
and it's demoralizing. But how
True.
do you actually get something out of it? And I'm looking at it. I'm like, and I spoke to a couple of my friends and colleagues at that time. Like, look at all these guys. What do they do? They just talk, making noise, but
Yeah.
it's got to be the right noise, right? You can't say make statements, random statements saying, "Oh, okay, this is not going to work," but you got to back it up with something. But also, if slowly, when you build up the reputation, you can actually be very tactical about how you approach your leaders, how you actually work with the leaders, because it's not your colleague who's gonna approve your pay rise or the promotion. It's the one above or two steps above the one. So if you can make yourself visible to those people, that's what you need to do, right? So even the simplest places like meetings, a lot of people, even I've done it myself. A lot of people just go there, do the email, do the work, and come back, answer the question, come back. But just take a moment. Like, I mean, this is my advice. Like, from the first chapter, if you read it, take a moment, observe everybody, look what they're doing, from the top level to the your own level, or even the below. What do they do? How they behave? Something in the digital world, that's something we have forgotten, is observation, like listening to others. Maybe
Yeah.
something.
Distracted.
Yes, we all distracted. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why it
I mean,
says make noise.
yeah. Okay. So you have covered very basic things like meeting. Like if we look at the main key areas of the book or the structure, would you want to explain the structure of the book, key areas that you have covered?
Yeah. So I go through basically, like, from a meeting environment to, you know group meeting environment, and then I go through a lot of uh, managerial interaction, how you influence others around you, and how you actually, let's say you have a career goal, you have a idea of your where you want to go. I mean, this is something critical you need to have, right? I'm not going to say you have a set goal of, like, this is what you're going to achieve, but at least you have an idea. But then how you position yourself in the company in such a way that you can harness the best out of that moment, out of that, year or 2 years or 5 years that you're staying in that company. Because ultimately, you need to get something back as well as you give something back to the company, right? So the sooner you get that and do that, the better. Then you've, you know, like climb the ladder fast. You advance your career faster. So try to align yourself with the right people. Whether it could be the colleague or the managers or the environment, or who those people are. Identify them. I mean, that's something I go through this book, and then navigate, align that career goal to a company strategy, company objectives. Then as soon as you achieve the goal, you also get the promotion. You have the ability to slowly advance. And then I go through, like, one of the title is like, this is one of the chapter 6, I think, get dumb to get ahead. um, so uh, so I'm trying to break the rules, right? So
Yeah,
so all of us are told, like, okay, hey, like in the university or schools or wherever, social life, stay quiet, be normal, right? Like, do the things that everybody else does.
yeah.
And do the things that follow the rules, right? But a lot of these, even myself, like for years, I could not go anywhere. Like, I'm like doing the same thing or same job over and over and then stuck in the same position. That's why we need to understand how you actually change that, right? So being talented doesn't mean that you're going to go up with that. Talent is great, but you got to actually position your talent and you got to market your talent, right?
Oh,
If you say, come out to the, everybody and say, hey, look, I have the greatest idea, better than anybody of you have. What are you going to get? You're going to get branded as the person who doesn't want to associate with, right? So
yeah.
that's why, you have to sometimes, actually a lot of times, slow down. Not everybody's in the same line as you. So slow down, show only things that you have to need to show, just maybe like slightly more. And then you can kind of get the reputation, build up your personality image throughout the company, or build a network. I know that's one of the key things that I'm kind of discussing in this book as well. And then, yeah, I think that's kind of a encapsulate like what I'm discussing in this book.
Okay. Uh, so career advancement is it only for senior managers? What about young executives? Still, are they supposed to work towards it, or you wait for first 3 years anyway, and then you start looking at it, or what?
So it's a trap, right? It's a trap. Nowadays, a lot of these big companies. Yeah, I think we're back. Yeah. So Amit, I was saying,
I lost you for a few seconds.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think we're back. Yeah, I think we're back. Okay. Yeah. So it's a trap, right? So a lot of these companies, like big companies, as soon as they see the talent, they're like, "Hey, this is a great title, director, VP, whatever the job title, right?" And then come here and to be there forever. But this is what happens as soon as they see these distractions. They stop. Unfortunately, a lot of people stop. So if you are in the younger generation or you're starting up your career, or if you're into 3 years, 5 years in your career, always try to learn. You know, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Back online.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Always be on the career advancement or actually learning curve. I think that's something. Even when I was at Boeing, I always thought there's something more I can learn, and
Mm.
I want to do. It just needs to drive yourself, like be driven to that uh, learning. And in these days, our jobs, what we do, and they change. I've been in 5 different industries already, or even the sixth one, right? Right. So we our jobs change so rapidly because if you are stuck into the same job, that's 20 years ago or 10 years ago. That's how fast we're changing. I'm not surprised 10 years later our jobs will be replaced by robots or AI, whatever that is. So
Yeah. So my next question is, now you wrote a book. I'm sure maybe when did you start writing the book? 2019, 18, or when did you think
2018.
about? Yeah, but when did you think about writing this book?
I had the goal to write a book when I was 18. um, but obviously, when you're 18, you don't have any idea what to write. You think about writing like a mathematics book or something like that, but nobody's going to read you anyway. So, and it's very hard to do at that time. So I had the idea to do it. That's one of my personal goals that I set for myself. And also lining up with the passion itself, like how I can voice my experiences and knowledge, and how I can share that with others. So I think there was a great opportunity, and my son was born in 2018. So I'm staying awake. I wake up at middle of the night, and I can't go back to sleep. So what did I do? I start typing, I said, write an article about my experiences, and then, 2, 3 weeks later, I've written 30 pages and but not like, and then I'm like, okay, I pass it to my wife and a couple other people. Hey, what do you think of this idea or like this chapter? Oh, this is great. Why don't you keep going? So after 2 years, I kept going. So I finished the book after 3 years, actually.
Yeah.
I took about 6 months gap. Couldn't find the motivation to finish it. Um, this happens, I guess, for everyone.
So this book is a practical approach to a successful career. And so before I ask you the next question, we have a question from Dinesh, who has been patiently waiting, and then he
Mhm.
couldn't wait anymore, and he's asking this question: where can we have this book here in this country?
That's a very good question. At the moment, it's on Amazon. If you have Kindle, obviously you can get that through Kindle. Getting the shipping with this pandemic is a pretty difficult situation. So I'm trying to get some publishers with the help of Amithe, actually, trying to get publishers in Sri Lanka so I can publish it. And then obviously everybody have the access to it as well. Hopefully that will happen soon. And it's on Kindle. I think Amithe, or you might be able to share the links. um,
Yeah. Yeah. Then the other question is now, this book would help any corporate executive to, what can I say, constructively look at how to progress the career.
Correct. So
Yeah.
I think it's very important that, like, I mean, I think not just to advance your career, it's all about also like understanding the environment, understanding your company culture. That is very important. I bring in some of the practical examples, right? And I work with so many different people in terms of, you know, people did not have, grade 7 qualification, but they are extremely talented. They are actually managing like PhD level people. You know, that's amazing, right? Like, so the sky is the limit for us, right? So how they do it, that's what I want to bring it to here. Because people like any of us can, if you have the motivation, if you have the goal, and if you understand our team dynamics, culture, our who we need to actually make noise to, um, then we can easily advance. Because if you stick to the structure, if you imagine if you haven't passed the grade 7, and you cannot think about a structured company, you can never manage people with PhD level qualification, right? So that's why you understand the team dynamics and the culture that will help you really advance your career. I think that's something I discuss it here. The real life examples I brought in so
Yeah,
everybody
I mean,
can understand that.
that's a great answer, because sometimes we have this tunnel vision. We are operationally extremely busy. Sometimes you have no time to look at the environment, and you ask any operational level or a middle level manager, and they'll say, "I'm extremely busy. I have no time to see what's going on in the environment." So one of the tips that you give is, if you want to advance, if you want to understand things, you need to understand the environment within which the organization is operating, and then understand the organizational culture. Yeah,
Correct. Exactly.
yeah. So
And also like,
someone recently asked me few days back. Here I'm connecting the dots. Again, someone who is working for a US based organization, and used to do an MBA, and then I was to lecture a particular subject. He suddenly called me and asked, "Hey, could you give me some tips? I want to change the culture of this organization." I said, "Are you the CEO?" He said, "No." Then I said, "Learn to navigate the culture." You want to give some inputs here?
yeah. So it's very interesting. So like, uh, I wouldn't name the companies, but when I joined this company, my task was to actually bring some level of structure and work towards the future, right? Work towards year or two, 6 months at least towards the future. So you got to have a holistic idea of like how the company operates, like the people, and they are the actual like the gears, right? They are the one who moves the company. So then obviously, like, I laid out the plan of in like, okay, 2 years plan, 3 years plan, then that will actually, that created a lot of people actually like, oh, okay, this is too big to handle, to break it down, right? If you want to make an impact to a company, large company, you have to break it down to the people, that how much they can understand, because each and every one of us in a certain compartment, we operate in that area, that level. We only maybe would be working for the next week, 2 weeks, or month, 2 months, right? And beyond that, we don't think much. So if you want to change big cultural change to any companies, bring it down to the level of that people can understand. That's what's important. Then, once you work with these different parts of the organization, departments or the people, give them the share your idea, right? A lot of people fail to do that because they think, oh, this is my idea, I want to hold on to it, right? That's
Yeah.
wrong. That's the wrong approach. As soon as you give it to them, you build the trust. All these books about trust, the Kavi's book about trust, keep them sharing. As soon as you do that, they start interacting with you and they start opening up like how you can collaborate. So all these, this is a game, right? This is the political, this is corporate politics, right? And
Yes.
if you want to be in that part of the change the culture, you have to be in the middle of it. But you got to make sure you are driving, you are in some part of the driving, holding that steering wheel to the certain level, right? I, when you execute it, I did this like for a company, and then 2 years later, the reports are going to the CEO level, right? Like the entire company is operating to that my what do you call the operating structure. So if you want to make that much of a change, it's not going to happen in 1 month for sure, 3 months, in
Yeah.
6 months. It's the 2 year, 3 year plan, and you have to execute it step by step, and you have to have a lot of people support. And I think something I didn't mention is your no matter how talented you are, your success for your job, even itself, it's not about you knowing the job, you actually doing the job. you know, I would say 60% of the job is about working with others.
Oh,
That's why a lot of people look at collaboration, teamwork when you go to interviews. It's about working with others and how you behave, how you can make, how you can be successful working with others. So I think that's something we all
okay.
need to
So
adapt.
yeah, so this book is not about your career progression, but then it's about the others as well. So if you are, let's say that you are a selfish person, and then if your people management skills or interpersonal skills are low, any advice you want to add here? Maybe it doesn't have to be from the book itself. Someone from who has worked in large corporations.
Ooh, that's a very challenging question, actually. Um,
At least, when even at the end of the year, your manager will tell you, look, you need to improve on your interpersonal skills. You are not a people's person. And then, I mean, based on what you say, I understand that's going to impact your progress anyway.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think if you if you are not a people person, there are things that you need to learn, right? Uh, you have to slowly move towards being open-minded. We Right, like, because you are not people person, because you're like, okay, reject ideas. I don't like to hear what Amita says. I don't like to hear what Priyaji says. If that's the case, you got to open up. You got to start listening. Simple as that. And then, I mean, I even myself, like, at certain times in my career, a lot of people have come to me and say, hey, you need to open up or listen up a bit. Then I'm like, okay, I looked at myself like, okay, yes, I am actually doing this, right? Because I feel confident. I feel like on top of the food chain, or, doing the best thing I can, anybody else than, right? So you have to put these aside. It's a maturity thing, right? As soon as you kind of realize that where you are in that situation, start opening, start listening, like, take a moment, put the phone away, put everything else away, just like, okay, what do you have to say? Let's
True,
talk. I mean, you don't have to follow it, you just have to listen. It makes a
true.
huge difference, right?
It makes a huge difference. Yeah, I understand. So that's one of the best advices. Start listening and be open minded. Yeah.
Right.
But then what happens is people listen to reply, not to understand or anything.
that's that's
Yeah.
that's our human nature, right? Because we always love to say what we know, not about, your interaction. Yeah.
So let me also ask another challenging question. Now, say you are asking people to do all these controversial or out of the ordinary kind of things, right? Aren't you going to offend a lot of people?
Absolutely, you will. But that's why you have to be very careful who you offend. So
Oh,
actually, I use what do you call the example here in this in the book. There are sharks in the companies, right? There are sharks,
yes,
and you can't mess
yes,
around with sharks. So you have to completely identify who these sharks are, and you don't make them angry. You just feed them. Whenever they need the food, you feed them. And there are people who will be manipulative, right? So, we don't have perfect cultures in the work, right? We got all have to accept it. No matter what book says, there's not such thing as perfect cultures. So we have to understand these different types of people. So my advice is like, is don't, make the sharks angry, and don't, sometimes there are people who manipulate people who will have insidious like ideas to actually uh, push you away, right? So be careful, right? Be tactical, be strategic, don't just jump. It's this is not a something, this is skills that you can adapt quickly, but roll out very slowly, because you have to build a slow strategy for it. Because your career is not going to advance from, graduate to senior level VP, right, in 2 months. So that's not going to happen. So we got to understand that time scale. So be strategic, be tactical on how you approach each and every individual. So because each and every one of us are in different career scale, so that's something we need to look after.
Okay, that's interesting. So you got to have patience. You just can't leave one place and say, thinking that, okay, the next place is going to be a better place, and my boss or the manager is going to be a better person. That strategy is not going to work.
No, no, even for me, like I've come across managers, like whether it's whatever the companies, they're not going to be open to any ideas. They just lot of people come to this stage like they are stagnant in their career. They're happy what they have. They just want to have the job, right? That's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's what they're passionate about. But if you are driven to achieve something, when you come across such individuals, you're going to get stuck. And I have got stuck, in those situations as well. So what do? You just try to reason out. You just try to come up with different tactics, and they give you feedback. Take it and see if it works. But even after such as all these changes or adjustments, the your what do you call the way of working will not be aligned. So there'll come to a moment that you will be frustrated. That's the moment before you get to that point. I think everybody has to realize when you need to, whether it's different department or same part of the company or different opportunity. So that's something you need to realize, that you need to do. Take the risk. I mean, that's why you have to, break the rules sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because once you get into the habit of doing the same thing over and over, you're not going to advance. So don't get to the habit. Just break it.
Yeah, and then there's no innovation or anything like that. Yeah, so I think I'm going to use your book a lot, because I'm also in the training area. So sometimes middle managers and maybe young executives, you get they get to ask these questions. So I use my experience and all that. I use books, but then I looks like your book has a lot of practical insights and examples of how you could actually apply. That's great. So let's have another comment from you, ma'am. Discussions have commenced with the idea of Sri Lanka publication and maybe a Sinhala translation too. Not immediately, but soon. I too am one bookworm who is counting the days to read your work, son. And a big thank you, Amitha. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm sure the corporations have extended their arms to outstations, right? You find all top banks, top corporates are having their branch network in, you go to Polonnaruwa,
Mm.
Mahianganeo, Badulla. So the corporations are not only here in Colombo. So uh, I mean, gone are the days where everything is happening in English language. So you may eventually have to look at a translation, I guess. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely.
yeah, why not help more people? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe this is my last question from you. Now, you started writing the book in 2018, and then the pandemic hit. Um, Maybe the question might look silly, but then the relevancy of the content of the book today, we are going through a pandemic. Uh, have things changed, or you think still it is so much relevant or more relevant today?
I think it's even more relevant, right? Because we have shifted to working from home culture, and we don't interact with others a lot. But how do we be tactical? How do we use the smallest window of opportunities to make ourselves stand out? That's what something we need to actually expand on, like something we need to learn, and then also our jobs, right? Like our jobs, we know that it's going to change, so we have to be open to like change as well. I think that's something, why always say we got to break the rules, break the way we work each day, and learn something new, right? Like, I mean, I've learned 5 different industries, right? And I think a lot of people can have the access to internet these days, and a lot of material out there that you can train yourself. And you can obviously reach out to people like myself. I'm happy to help people out. And then you can learn new things, right? um, that's the only way you can advance. But staying in one place, yeah, it's old school from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we had this discussion earlier. Uh, I would like to, I mean, you said that you are more than happy to help one or two who come to this discussion and who comment. This is my suggestion. Let's identify few people who have commented, and then maybe I will inbox them your offer for one or two sessions for a little bit of mentoring about their future career. And is that something we can look at as we
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
discussed?
would love to. I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, send me a message, and we can catch up for a quick video call.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So, Priyaji, thank you so very much for coming to the show and helping the audience. It's not only from Sri Lanka, you saw the people who are coming to the show from San Francisco. Sometimes, we find people joining from Middle East, from India, from other parts of the Asia, depending on their time availability, etc., etc. So that's one of the reason why I run this little late night. By the way, what's the time over there in Indonesia at this
It's
moment,
11,
Jakarta?
p.m. now. 11 p.m. now. That's okay. Not a
Thank you
problem.
so very much for taking time to come to the show, help especially the Sri Lankan audience and those who join us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. Really appreciate your work and looking forward to reading your book. And then I'll definitely connect you with one or two publishers. You choose one and see how best you can make it available to Sri Lankan audience.
I mean,
Any
I
last
got to thank
words?
everybody. Thank you, Amita, for giving me the opportunity as well. And thank you, everybody, for joining this conversation too. Hopefully, you got something valuable out of it. And then, if you have any questions, obviously, you can direct message me. I'm happy to help, happy to always listen and support. We are all in the learning business. I think we all understand each other. We want to grow. We want to be improve ourselves each day. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, so we have a final comment from Anika. This was a fantastic conversation for young change makers today. Hi, Anika. Thank you very much for the comment. So maybe you being the last person to comment, just before finishing the show, maybe I would. Uh, you will get one of those opportunities to get mentored, few mentoring sessions from Priyaji. Priyaji, I'll connect Anika with you,
Please do.
maybe on LinkedIn inbox itself, and see how best Anika could learn one or two things from you, from someone who has worked for one of the two top uh, best brands in the world. So thank you very much. Okay, we have one more thank you from Mayanti. Mayanti, thank you. Okay, okay. Mayanti is asking. It's okay to have one or two extra
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
I mean, this is not. This is my radio station, so we have no restrictions. A quick question: how can we apply these learnings to the freelance landscape, gig
That's
economy?
interesting question. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting question.
Maybe,
Ultimately, what you are
because
building is an image, right?
Priyaji,
Ultimately,
Priyaji, let me add something. So
yep.
let me add this now. In the gig economy, even though you don't have a boss, you are not reporting to anyone, but you are working with large clients. So maybe you can apply in that way.
Because people there are, I mean, I work with different for a marketing company right before as well, and then all these clients, we have to pitch to them. So you have to understand how what their mentality, right? Like I talk about in the book about interview. One of the chapters is about interviews, because when you go to
Oh,
interview you have no idea what that person is, like or the panel of interviewers are. And I've been in the both side of the picture. And then what's important is you got like 5-10 minutes, not even that, understand what this person is, like what are their interests, because ultimately you're speaking to their heart. right? You gotta win them over to be successful. So if you're a freelancer, how do you win them, right? I'm not sure what your industry is, but you have to ultimately win them. You have to market yourself. You have to create a right image there, so you can get that right audience into build your freelance business. And
So
also,
Priyaji,
yeah, go on.
we can do this. We can
Yes,
offer Mayanti the
yes,
second seat to get few
okay.
mentoring sessions from you
I think so.
directly. So Mayanti and Anika, both of you, just inbox Priyaji. Go to his LinkedIn and inbox your details, and then maybe you can set up a call and get direct mentoring from him. That would be great. I mean, I have to thank Priyaji. Yesterday we had a test run, and then at that time he offered this, and he said, I totally forgot until we came to the final few minutes of the session. I couldn't announce it at the beginning, my fault. But then here you have two ladies who are going to talk to you, and then they're going to get mentored from an international mentor. Amazing. So that's the beauty of maybe these kind of shows, the technology, social media. Amazing things could happen. So Mayanti and Anika, spread the word. Ask your friends to come to this show. You never know what surprises are available.
That's right.
Next week.
It's a great
Yeah,
show.
yeah. Okay, Priyaji, thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming, and a big thank you to your mama as well. She was commenting and encouraging. I'm so happy to giving a platform for your mama to see your progression.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Take care. Good
Take
night.
care.